Hello.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. We're live. It looks like we're live. I need to just grab this link and throw it in the event real quick. So just bear with me. I know I have this epic countdown, like I'm going to be all ready once the countdown is over, but I'm not.
That's all good. I am really excited to be here, Jen. I have been watching your episodes all month long and beyond that, and I'm really excited for my opportunity to speak today about some things that are close to my heart and talk about my story. And yeah, I couldn't imagine a better place or a better.
Well, and I'm so happy to have you. You know, we've been friends for a while.
Heart.
Ooh. I wonder if we're having a problem with the internet connection here.
Is yours okay? I think we're okay now, hopefully. I think I see Christine in the comments. Hey, Christine, how are you? One of our friends.
So as people come in, you know, if you're live, you know, I'd love to see #live. But if you're coming in for the replay, I would love to know who comes in sort of like after the fact, after, you know, Erynn has shared her story and, you know, what she believes in and why she cares about learning and growth. That would be just amazing. For those of you who don't know Erynn, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Erynn Bell. I'm based in Los Angeles, California, and I have been working for a company called Degreed for the past, 5 months. I started in the middle of the pandemic. I'm a director of enterprise sales, so an individual contributor there, helping companies connect learning to skills and skills to opportunities. So we help companies be agile in the midst of whatever market disruptors there may be out there. So upskilling, reskilling, and also helping internal career mobility as well.
So you're all about the learning. You're all
Yeah.
about learning and growth. So that's amazing. It's really great that when you can find, you know, an organization to work with that aligns with your values. I know that learning for you, you know, has been something that's really important to you in your journey. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think for myself, you know, I always called myself a bit of an academic. I really enjoyed school and learning, especially in college. I studied sociology, so not very applicable in a profession. But I think what that experience taught me is going to class and essentially getting my mind blown like every single day. Like basically what we were taught is everything that you've learned in society and in culture, you know, it is not wrong, but here's another perspective. And so that sort of enabled me to have critical thinking, look at things from different perspectives, question the why behind what, you know, was being told to me. So I really enjoyed that experience. And I've always been a really big reader as well. So that's, I think, been something that has made me passionate about learning. But I would say more so than all of that, there were times in my life where I got stuck in what I'd call a finite mindset, where I thought, if I can't do this easily, or if this doesn't come naturally to me, I'm not smart or I'm not good enough. So I really connected that to my self-worth. And over the past few years, I've really come away from that and more towards an infinite mindset. And that has helped me grow so much professionally, personally. It's helped my confidence soar. So I think that's another reason why I'm so passionate about this.
Yeah, if you could, and of course, I know Simon Sinek and all of his teachings, right? But when you think of finite and infinite mindset, what do you see as the difference?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think it can happen in a couple different contexts. So I think when Simon Sinek speaks about it, in some ways, he talks about this, you know, capitalism that came about in the 80s and the 90s, where it was really like commodity focused. There was only so much that any one person, there's like a finite amount and there are winners and there are losers, versus this idea of infinite, that, you know, there's enough for everyone to succeed and enough for everyone to go around. I also think about it personally as, you know, finite for me was I am born with a certain amount of capabilities, and that infinite or growth mindset is I can learn, I can grow, I can, take on challenges. And even if I fail, I'm failing forward. So not being afraid of those opportunities to try new things, try new skills. And even if I fail, it's still a success because I'm learning along the way.
Yeah, and I love that. That's amazing. To me, it's like that finite mindset is sort of the short term,
yeah,
versus the infinite, which is more the long term, global, where if you have an infinite mindset, it's not just about you or the metrics. It's about how you're impacting others and how you're impacting society as a whole, and the value that you bring to your community, to the world. Because, while we're in the United States, the world is very big and there are lots of different ideas. So having such a finite mindset, is very limiting.
100%. We were, put on this earth, and we have this amazing opportunity. Our lives are, they don't go on forever, but the impact that we can have, can live on forever. And when I think about this, I think about my grandmother, who had a major impact on my life. So, I had her until I was 23 years old, but she lives on within me every single day. And a lot of the things that she taught me motivate me and give me purpose. So I think that's sort of the amazingness of being a human and living in this world. So yeah, I love that idea of, you can have an impact beyond yourself. And that's been something I say a lot. I'm not your average sales rep. And I think that's why, because I see beyond myself. I don't like to work in a silo. I don't like to be a lone wolf. I'm very much a community focused person. And I know, Jen, you are as well. So that idea of, hey, the world is a really big place. Like, go out and find, who you are, and also like challenge your own perspectives so that you can have the most positive impact on the world. That suits my personality really well.
I really love that. I love that. Yeah, a lot of what you said was really beautiful right there. But it also reminds me of a post you did yesterday when you were talking about this event, that, that you're, unlike some, sales professionals out there, you're not necessarily in it for the money, that you're in it for the learning. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you were probably one of the first people that I spoke with about this. And you put it really well. You said, have you done your discovery? If you're a sales leader, you're constantly trying to coach your own salespeople into doing an effective discovery. Well, you also need to like put your money where your mouth is and do that with your own people as well. And it's not necessarily, qualifying or finding authority or need in the way that we would as salespeople, but it's really understanding the people that you're managing, like what's important to them. So my job history has been really varied, and I actually started my professional life out as a social worker. So I worked for a domestic violence agency. And I will say, looking back on my career, that was probably one of the most impactful jobs that I've ever had. And why I loved it so much was truly my ability to help people in a really real way. That is something that gives me satisfaction in my own life. And although I'm no longer a social worker, in some ways in sales, I can still have the same effect on people. So that's why I love Degree. We're mission focused. There's a greater thing that we're doing out in the world, which is helping people build really successful careers at organizations. That's good for the organization, but at the end of the day, it's really good for the individual. So if you come to me and you think that I'm very like money motivated, that there's going to be a disconnect there. If you haven't had that proper discovery or understand my history, there's going to be a disconnect there in how you're motivating me.
Yeah, I mean, and I talk about this a lot, that managing the whole person and understanding what inspires and motivates each individual person. Like going back to Simon Sinek, and Jonathan posted hashtag Simon Says, which cracks me up because, I always with kids. But, knowing their why, knowing what they want for their life and what's important to them, and what's going to inspire them as, a contributor or a leader, or, what's in it for them, and how do you engage to be relevant? I posted this morning about some of my most relevant, like memorable moments where I like really learned. Like it's sort of that when you learn something and it sticks with you. And so it's like in that back of your mind that every so often this phrase or this thing pops up for you because it's something that so resonated with you. And so I shared the cheetah story from Untamed. And, it makes me think of how sometimes we put people in boxes.
Yes.
So let's get into some of these comments here. Jonathan mentioned hashtag Simon Says, which I just love. I'm going to start using that hashtag.
I know. Well, I want to, Jen, kind of touch upon that story because you sent it to me before our live stream today, and it really hit me, at least the preface to the book, The Cheetah Story. I myself have lived an unconventional life, and that's something that I've always wanted for myself. I saw beyond the borders of the country that I grew up in, and I knew that I wanted to live in other places. I think, you and I were talking before the broadcast, what impact did that experience have on my life? Well, it broadened my understanding of myself. I moved to a country I'd never been before, completely on my own, and I was able to set up shop really easily. I was also able to be really successful in those areas and achieve in a way I had never been able to before. And I talked to you a little bit about when I came back to America and started looking for jobs and interviewing. People started saying things to me like, I just don't think that you know who you are yet. Or I'm a little bit confused by your work history. Or, what's going on here where you lived in Australia and New Zealand for 4 years? And I'm not going to lie, it was one of the most deflating feelings in the world. Me coming back to my home country, being so excited about this experience that I had that made me grow more than anything I've ever done before. And then having that reception, it was really, really tough to get through. But again, I dug in and I went back to my growth mindset and I said, well, if they don't see the value in what this did for me or what this could do for me as an employee at their organization, then this is not a good fit. And it's led me to a place where I found a company that really recognizes my whole self and does value those things. And so I am in a really good position. But I think it is, it's hard. You have to have that tenacity and that grit. But how do you cope when you're really excited about things that you've had in your life and other people aren't receiving it in the same way, right?
Well, no, and that resonates with me a lot. I mean, I started out my career in retail, right? But in retail management, right? So here I am leading a team of 50 people and opening stores across the country. And in the SaaS industry, it doesn't count. But I was accountable for dollars per square foot. Not only the revenue I'm generating, but less the payroll, the rent, and for every square foot of the space. Can you imagine SaaS leaders being accountable for dollars per square foot for each individual contributor? And so, and like having 100%. To know that on a regular basis, you can't tell me that that isn't a transferable skill. And that I only have a decade of SaaS experience as opposed to 25 years of leadership experience because my career looks more like a jungle gym, right, than a ladder. And where you appreciate the jungle gyms, right?
100%. And yeah, I think companies, to me, when I'm looking for a job, if a company says to me, we value your skills and your mindset over your experience, right? Because what is experience? Just like you said, there's like the transferable skills that happen within that experience. If they value that and your ability to be coached and how open you are and your learning agility, to me, that's an amazing organization. That's an organization that you should lean into.
Well, yeah. I mean, anyone who invest time into their learning and personal growth. I talk a lot about that emotional roller coaster of sales, right?
Yeah.
And that a leader's job is to not let them go down the coaster. that
Right.
to get to sort of that even keel. Well, how do you keep them there? Well, you provide learning opportunities. You find people who are eager to learn and grow and change and enrich their employee experience so that they can bring their best selves and create inclusive and diverse work environments, right? And
Absolutely.
that will bring a higher level of engagement, because if you put people over KPIs, the people will rise to meet the KPIs as long as they have the support and you keep them accountable.
And give them the space. That is one of, I think I may have been speaking with you and a couple of our other friends and said, it took me 4 years to get a bachelor's degree. And you expect me to be hitting my quota out of the gate in a really tough market with a 2-week orientation or onboarding experience? Where are we really investing in our people? Give them the time, give them the space, give them the coaching, give them the at-bats that they need in order to get really good at their job. I think that if you rule with fear, which I know, a lot of sales organizations can and have in the past ruled with that fear of, if you're not hitting your quota, that first quarter, you're out, that's a wasted opportunity for that company and also for that individual to learn and grow. You really need them to fail forward and allow for that. Again, another thing I'm really grateful for being at my current company, they value your process and your habits over outcomes, although outcomes are very important as well. There's this sense that they're really giving you the time and the space and the patience to get really good at your job.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. It's funny. I took my VP of sales class last night, right, with SASE Sales Leadership. Mm-hmm. And so the topic last night was sales enablement and where you bring sales enablement in for support for, that initial boot camp, for onboarding, and how to create like a continuous learning sort of environment so that you're able to really maximize the skills of the team and bring them the new information as it becomes available. And it was funny to me that, it's like, when do you bring sales enablement in when you're a startup? At what point do you bring them in? At what point do you add a second person? And so the discussion was pretty interesting because some didn't have any, some had, some. But for the most part, sales enablement was just sort of an idea that wasn't necessarily acknowledged in so many companies. But think about the value of that. Think about what the ramp up time would look like if more organizations had something like sales enablement and learning programs and stuff that was actually structured so that it takes into account everyone's type of learning.
100%.
And for them to be able to level up those skills in a way that is continuous, that isn't just that initial, ramp up time, but ongoing.
And I know I sent you that study, the How the Workforce Learns study that Degree did with Harvard Business Publishing. And that's exactly what it talks about. It talks about, there's all different types of learning and they're happening at different sort of cadences or time. And what we found is the workforce is learning mostly through the things that are happening every single day and continuous. It does not mean that those trainings are not important, because they really are, but it's how do you continue to cement the learning that was learned during those trainings. If you only have a really full-on week of like ILT or instructor-led training in the classroom, and then you don't continue the opportunities for that person to continue to learn and practice these skills, then that's a huge waste, right? You're not allowing for that continuous cementation of the skills that you are, I think I just made a word up, but skills that you're developing.
Hey, I like new words. That's fine.
I know. Right? But then one of the ways that stands out to me the most is, and I think this is really common, and Jen, you can probably identify with this, is someone comes in, they're a top performer, and then they move into a leadership position. One of the things that's huge that I am a big promoter of is individual contributors do not equal leaders. Leadership skills are different than what makes somebody a good individual contributor. I would say that the most impactful way to make an amazing leader or to create another gen for your organization is to, once they've expressed interest in stepping into leadership, start feeding them mentorship opportunities or opportunities for them to practice skills that make them a good leader over a certain amount of time. And then once they've proven themselves to be really good at that or start developing those skills over that time, then you move them into a leadership position. Because if you go from the frying pan into the fire, you know, that person's going to end up failing and there's going to be a lot of other people failing around them. So allowing those people those stretch assignments or stretch opportunities to practice those skills, I would say is extremely important. And that's a really amazing way to continue any learning that may have happened in like a leadership course or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's also about taking the time to understand how each individual person would be challenged.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're meeting with your team one-on-one and you recognize there's an opportunity to push them a little bit more, put them in charge of an initiative, have them bring that new idea not only to you, but to allow them to bring it to fruition.
Yeah.
And give them the opportunity to step up and lead that effort. You're creating not only an opportunity for them to show those leadership skills, but you're creating a more engaged workforce.
Yeah.
Right? And so do learning on their own, people doing webinars, joining communities, joining, you know, lots of listening to Patreon, you know, and trying to level up on a regular basis. How do you identify those people? And then how are you acknowledging that they're putting in that extra effort and that they should be able to use those skills in their work other than just, you know, like you've gone and downloaded, you know, Katie's, you know, the spreadsheet for how many calls you need, right?
100%.
You know, if you as an SDR have downloaded it and have completed it and have done all that math and you show your boss, are you giving that person an opportunity to show their coworkers and say, hey, check this out? You know what I mean? And then allowing them to sort of lead that effort to say, hey, look what I got from KD. That's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And I see Jonathan is asking in the comments for me to tell the world a little bit more about myself, to do a relatable story. Well, I'll tell you that in those moments where I came back to the US and people looked at my resume and they said, you know, who is this person before us? We don't understand. You know, they're really missing out on a person that is continuously trying to make not only myself better, but also the team. So I'll tell two stories here. When I worked at the travel agency, we were growing like crazy and we would hire people and there was a really high turnover rate that was happening. So what my manager did is she actually gave us all personality tests. And what she then did was give those same personality tests to candidates. And she would sort of align them and be like, we need another Erynn, we need another Narissa, we need another this person. And it was actually funny, but something that came out of that is I understood that with, you know, my personality test that I came out as the diplomat and also like constantly improving. So I had this like almost like innate desire within myself to constantly improve. And that didn't just go, you know, that didn't end at my own individual contributions. It actually went beyond that. And how could I help my team? So again, flash forward me back in the United States, every time that I was at a different sales organization, and I'll just say historically, I've always worked with women-led and majority women sales organizations. But when I came back to the US and got more into SaaS sales, it was more like male-dominated teams. I would put forth that same idea. Hey guys, let's get pizza and, you know, some sodas or, you know, a 6-pack of beer. Let's stay after work and let's all talk about the different messaging and talk tracks that are, you know, doing really well for us. I constantly put forth this idea of like, let's together as a group, like crowdsource what's working and what isn't working. And let me tell you, Jen, those were all shot down continuously by my leadership. I roll that by my colleagues. And you know what? I'll say those organizations missed out on somebody who was extremely engaged in the success of that organization, who was constantly wanting to improve not only herself, but the rest of the team around them. And they lifted up those lone wolf salespeople. You know what? How many people were meeting quota on those teams at the end of the day? 1 or 2 people, those lone wolves. Rather than getting everyone else to rise up and succeed alongside of everyone else, it was only those, specific lone wolves that were just going out there and not sharing the information that was helping them to be successful. So I say all that to say, lean into those who are constantly wanting to share their knowledge, share their success, because at the end of the day, those are the people that are going to help that sort of, bottom 30 or 40% of the performers also rise up alongside them. And that's a huge benefit to an organization.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, I think the leading indicator of when you're starting to lose someone from an engagement standpoint is when they're super engaged and always bringing new ideas and suddenly they're silent. Like suddenly they've got nothing else to say, right? And that's because, they don't feel heard.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel heard, at what point are you going to be doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? When you know that, you haven't been able to get in.
And I just feel like there's...
I'm sorry, you were going to say
something? I agree. And I think, again, I just think it just goes back to that, learning agility and, again, having somebody on your team that is, constantly seeking to improve themselves, but also, sharing that with the other people around them. I think that that's just really important. And I think that we're entering a new era, like everything that you've just said, all of these statistics that are out there saying engaged employees, equal more productivity, more profit. It's good for the organization. It's good for the individual. I'm excited to see that we're on the precipice of sort of this new industrial revolution that's happening around us. And perhaps it is because things are becoming more automated and more, digital transformation is taking over, that we have to lean more into those human skills that we have, which is connection and the social aspects of being human.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Some salespeople worry about the robots coming for us, right? But if you're really having that human-to-human interaction and really building relationships, then you never have to worry about the robots, because the robot's not going to replace you. You see all the people on LinkedIn complaining about the automated outreach, right? That automated outreach, why people complain about it is because it's impersonal and it's annoying. It's not, you have to create some relevance.
Yeah, and that's the human side of it, right? Everyone talks about the jobs that technology and AI are going to replace, but they don't talk about the jobs that it's going to create. It's going to change the way in which we work, but it's not going to make us obsolete. We're always going to need humans, empathy, EQ, all of these things, these connections that computers are not necessarily going to be able to make. That's where we come in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've got some questions here, or some comments. We've got Michelle Hayes. Thank you for joining us, Michelle, is Preach.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, who's been commenting all along. Thank you, Jonathan. Amazing point. Raise to protecting salespeople 20% and you'll crush protecting lone wolves. It's math. It is math, right? It all comes down to the math. If you've got one person who's going above and beyond and killing their quota, that's not enough for a scalable sales organization. No. It's not. No. So where do you, engage people as a team to level up together? So, and we've got Catherine McConnell, who says the greater good. We've got someone who says 100%. So it sounds like most of the audience sort of agrees with us for the most part. Yeah. So we're already at 12:28 Eastern. This time has just flown. Doesn't it feel like, that we've talked for like half an hour?
Yeah, it feels crazy, and it's 9:28 my time. So,
well, and
West Coast
I try to get it at like lunchtime, but I realize, with the time zone, it's going to be different for everyone. But I figured half an hour is just enough time for a break for you to listen to a quick story, right? You could continue to work, but it's just a half an hour. Half an hour is like nothing in the overall scheme of things in a week. So next week, thank you so much for coming and joining me and sharing your story. I so appreciate it.
No worries. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah. So, there is a question from Catherine. If we take a moment for that. How can we get other people on this wavelength? Well, that is
Reach out to me, guys. I can get your people on that wavelength. Hashtag agreed.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're working on that, right? We're sharing stories like this on LinkedIn Live about the importance of learning and grow transferable skills. We're being as vocal as we can about it. We're bringing unique people to this platform basically to share their stories and what they're doing, what that works for them, and really just continuing to have conversations. Next week, I've got Shannon Sellis, who is going to be talking about creativity in your outreach. If you have not seen her videos, you need to go look at her LinkedIn profile and check out her songs. She has got, I don't know, she's got the vocals. I remember being in chorus in high school and my best friend like punching me all the time going, pitch, Jen, pitch. And I'm like, what? I'm fine. I'm good, right?
What's
also, he's happy hour coming up at the end of the month. So Erynn is coming back because I'm lucky enough to have her twice in 1 month. But Anne is joining us, Ashley, Gabrielle, Michelle from the Rebellion, Catherine, Christine, Amy, Alexine. We've got like a lineup. We got 10 people all on a happy hour to wrap up, Women in Sales Month, to talk about how we keep the conversation going about women in sales. How do we make this not just a month where we're talking about it for a month and, in November we've forgotten that we're trying to empower one another.
I love it. I'm so happy to do this.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm going to show a clip from our last Ladies Happy Hour, which was on Mom Life, but I think is so relevant to this conversation about learning. So I hope everyone enjoys it. Thanks again so much for coming, and we'll see you next week for that. But let me see. I haven't done this before, this video thing, so I'm
Got it.
Hopefully this works. If it doesn't, sorry.
First beginning now. And people say, if I would have known back then what I know now. No, like I had to hit rock bottom for so many reasons. I always say, like, if rock bottom had a basement, I found it. If I had to go through all of that shit to be able to come out on the other side and to look back and say, now I see why it all happened that way. Now I can connect the dots. This is why it happened this way. This was the ripple effect. And I'm stronger for it. And I'm a better mother. And I'm a better career professional. And I'm a better friend, better daughter, better coach, better whatever. Then that's my lesson. So all I can say is just to finish off, and then I promise I'll stop. School gives you the lesson before the test. Life gives you the test before the lesson. And I have no regrets for that.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true.
What a way to wrap it up, Michelle. I was proud for you, and you did not disappoint.
She brought it home.
Bringing it home. Can we do this like all the time?
I want to read for every now I have like,
we should call it like sales mom therapy.
I talk to women like weekly.